Today on CityCast Nashville, the Super Bowl is headed to Nashville in 2030, and the countdown is officially on. But will the East Bank be ready to host one of the biggest events on the planet? Joining us is Carrie Hayes, Communications Director for the East Bank Development Authority, here to talk about realistic timelines, possible painful construction, and what's actually expected to be finished before kickoff. It's Monday, June 22nd. I'm Marie Cecile Anderson, and this is what Nashville's talking about. Carrie, you are the Communications Director for the East Bank Development Authority. So let's just start by having you communicate how you felt when the Super Bowl was confirmed for 2030.
Well, I think like everyone in Nashville, it was a mix of excitement, a little bit of disbelief. I'd be lying if I said there wasn't some sense of trepidation or urgency on the part of those of us at the East Bank Development Authority who are responsible for doing a lot to prepare what we call the Central Waterfront District, which is that acreage right around New Nissan Stadium, where the game itself will be played. But, mostly we are thrilled to be, in our case, not just the host city, but the host neighborhood for, one of the biggest sports and entertainment events on the planet. And obviously no secret that Nashville was vying for this and looking for it for quite a while. And I think it's a tremendous testament to everyone throughout Metro, frankly, to put together a really competitive package and make sure the NFL knows that we are ready to do this and we're going to have a great time.
All right, but right now, what percentage of the East Bank is left to complete?
Well, at this moment, if you were to drive past the East Bank or through the East Bank, in a lot of ways, the vertical construction that people will see is just beginning. The Nissan Stadium, which is nearing completion, is obviously the most visible, piece of new construction that's taking place on the East Bank. The Fallon Company, which is Metro's development partner for around 30 acres that Metro owns right around the stadium, just broke ground on an affordable housing project called East Point Flats. That'll be done in a couple of years. That's going to be followed at some point by a new hotel and some other residential development that'll be even closer to the stadium. All of that's going to start to happen here in the next few years. So in terms of percentage, I would say we are in the single digits of what people can expect.
Oh, dear.
A lot of folks ask, well, when is East Bank going to be done? And the answer is really, well, when is Nashville going to be done? I mean, it's such a large area. It's a little tough to think of that way.
All right, so we have a countdown. Super Bowl is coming in 40 months. How much then are we hoping to have finished by then?
Well, a lot of the East Bank will look quite different by the time the Super Bowl kicks off. So the game will be, obviously in early to mid-February of 2030. A lot of the construction will pause in the preceding probably September, October, the fall of 2029. Things will kind of taper off so that the NFL can come in and start working with us in Metro on whatever specific preparations they need to make for the game. So by that point, a lot of things will be done. Obviously, the new stadium will be open. Will have been open for several years. Old Nissan Stadium will be dismantled. Where it is currently sitting, some of that will be paved and prepped for future development. A lot of it will be turned into a big park that will flow down to the river very dramatically, which is very cool. The new Tennessee Performing Arts Center, at least the exterior of that building, should be complete by that time. So coming right off the Siegenthaler Bridge, you'll look down and you'll see the beautiful new TPAC that a lot of your listeners and readers will have seen the renderings of that, which is great. The affordable housing project that I mentioned will be done, will be full of people. There will be a new hotel that should be at least substantially complete, very close to the stadium. And that will be alongside quite a number of streets and roads and other things that will have either been dramatically rebuilt, dramatically re-streetscaped, utterly transformed. So the entire experience as you're kind of looking at the stadium and coming into the stadium will be markedly different than what people currently see or what they've traditionally seen coming to a Titans game.
So a lot to do.
A lot. Yes. That's a long way of me saying a lot of stuff will be done.
A lot of stuff will be done by then. And I think it's leading to a lot of people wondering, given that you now have a hard deadline to get it all finished in time for it to be on TV.
Yeah.
How will you ensure things are being done right instead of just being done fast?
Yeah, well, great question. I mean, I think one thing that we want to be very, very clear with everyone about is as excited as we are to be hosting this game and as big of an honor as it is for Nashville and as thrilled as we are as the East Bank to be the host community for this. Everything that we're doing is for Nashvillians and the work, everything that I just mentioned, by the way, has been underway for months. And the East Bank Development Authority was not founded for the Super Bowl. We're trying to build a community for Nashvillians, and that's always been the vision for the East Bank. That's been something that's been one of our most foundational principles and part of our ethos from the very beginning is that everything that we're doing is to try to create a community that Nashvillians can be proud of, and that will need to continue long after the Super Bowl has visited our city and left. So when you're talking about, a quality standard that we want people in Nashville to look at with a high degree of pride and assurance that things were done right, that really is our North Star. It's not racing to get things done in a sort of Potemkin Village way to make sure things look nice for the TV. So I hear what you're saying, and I think everybody, if they have ever watched the Super Bowl, can think of, those nice big dramatic aerial shots at the beginning of the broadcast where they're showing where the game's going to be played and everything that's around that. So that will look beautiful. It will look like a beautiful new community that's taken shape. But when we're talking about streets and roads and infrastructure and the amount of time and effort that we're putting to put utilities below ground, the intentionality with which we're thinking about some of the public spaces and the parks and the open space and the greenways that we're going to be delivering, all of that is done to an extremely high standard of both design and construction that will need to endure for decades.
Happy to hear that. And I do wonder, though, do you think the NFL has this future community in mind as they are planning this event?
I believe that the NFL, and I can't say this because I've had any first-party conversations with them, I believe that they want all of the cities where they produce their flagship event. I mean, this is the National Football League is the most sophisticated entertainment juggernaut in the history of humanity. And they do what they do to a very high level themselves. And their flagship event, being the Super Bowl, is one that I think they obviously take extraordinarily seriously. They want that to be a good experience for their host cities, right? I mean, they understand this is a partnership. They are guests in our community. I know the mayor has spoken at some length about making sure that as many local businesses and contractors as possible participate in this from an economic standpoint. I think he takes that commitment very seriously. So I look at this as a pretty fruitful partnership, and frankly, one that I think everyone involved thinks can continue for many years.
According to a chart y'all recently released, it looks like a lot of the work on the schedule between now and the Super Bowl is infrastructure, including, like you mentioned before, burying the utilities around the site.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, an East Bank representative told News Channel 5 that this process was going to be painful. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, we don't want to pull any punches. And, one of the things that we take very seriously as an organization is an obligation to be transparent and upfront with the public about things that they will experience as the East Bank continues to develop. The specific work that she was referring to is a series of what are called duct banks. So it's, as it's been explained to me, not an engineer, this is where we literally open the street. We place a concrete box underneath the ground. In that box, we're laying any number of sensitive infrastructure things, NES wiring, telecom wiring, things that when a severe weather event should come through our city and are very vulnerable to getting knocked down, creates a lot of havoc and a lot of complication, a lot of unhappiness for a lot of people. We've always had the plan to make sure that we're burying as much of that as we can to protect it because it is so vulnerable and so sensitive. And we want to make sure that not only does it look nicer, I mean, everyone can imagine neighborhoods where you see the utilities below ground compared to where they're hanging up on power poles. And it just makes for a nicer, more pleasant pedestrian experience. We would be dishonest if we said that is not going to create some delays potentially in people's commutes because we are going to be messing with the street. That takes a while to do it right. Your earlier question about quality and making sure things are done right, not things are done quick. So the projects that we're talking about this summer, which are putting these duct banks both along Woodland and on Shelby, we will do as much of this in a way that minimizes disruption to people's commutes and people's ability to get back and forth on those streets, which we know are extremely busy, particularly during rush hour. We are very mindful of that. We appreciate everyone's patience. We hope that everyone understands that we are doing this because we are trying to create a community that in the long run is going to be safer and smarter and better protected from nasty weather and all sorts of other things that can cause people's power to go out if those utilities are left hanging in the air.
And when the stadium is the only place that has electricity during our next big storm, I hope it welcomes us all.
Well, on the East Bank, whenever that storm comes, my hope is that there are a number of places where people can find refuge if the entire East Bank is still powered because those utilities are safely nestled in the street. Yeah.
Silver lining. Step into a summer filled with music and history at Andrew Jackson's Hermitage. You do not want to miss Country Night on June 26th, the final concert in the inaugural Roots and Rhythms Americana Concert Series presented by Wilson Bank and Trust. Enjoy an unforgettable evening of live music, local food and drinks, and community on the historic grounds of the Hermitage. Bring a blanket or lawn chair and settle in for performances by Elizabeth Cook and Tim Easton. Hosted by Jesse Scott of WMOT Roots Radio 89.5 FM. The evening will also feature a special presentation honoring legendary songwriter and 2026 Roots and Rhythms Legacy Award recipient Steve Earle, with the award accepted on his behalf by his sister Stacey Earle. Doors open at 5 p.m. with music beginning at 7. Guests of all ages are welcome, and children 13 and under get in for free. General admission tickets are $20 or $10 for Hermitage members. VIP tickets are also available for $50 and include access to a private lounge, dedicated bar, and priority seating. You do not want to miss the final night of Roots and Rhythms Americana Concert Series. Get your tickets today at thehermitage.com. We also saw you tell WKRN that you are not expecting to have the East Bank Boulevard complete in time for the Super Bowl. There are so many shuttles and buses and law enforcement vehicles that need to be able to travel in and out of the stadium during the Super Bowl. How is that exactly going to work, and what will the roads around the stadium look like?
Yeah, well, what is in our plan, Woodland and Shelby, all of those streets will be completely streetscaped, very accessible. You know, you will have many, many points of ingress and egress in and out of the stadium throughout the East Bank. So from an access standpoint for the types of emergency vehicles and law enforcement, you know, I don't think there's any reason to have any concern, you know, accessing the stadium for whatever they may need to do. Obviously, by that point, too, I mean, the stadium will have been open for a few years. So you'll have, you know, huge load-ins and load-outs, both of sports teams, obviously, and concerts and anything else that they decide to bring. So we'll have several years to make sure that all of that is working the way that it needs to. As it relates to East Bank Boulevard in particular, yeah, the construction on that isn't actually started to begin until late 2030. So we are even quite a number of months past the Super Bowl before we will have started construction on what will eventually become, you know, the major north-south artery going from Korean Veterans Bridge all the way up past Jefferson. That will itself take several years. So we are looking deep, deep, deep into the future before East Bank Boulevard will be a functional, usable boulevard. We are working right now on trying to design that and make sure that it is able to do all the things that it needs to do once it is open.
Will those new streetscapes include multimodal options like bike lanes?
Well, I want to not get ahead of myself in terms of trying to tell your listeners what each and every street is going to contain in terms of its design. I will say our thought around East Bank Boulevard is driving a lot of our design considerations right now. We will have more to share later this year, later this summer. Certainly we'll have a set of designs that we want to show the public so that they can understand what we're thinking in terms around how people are meant to get around once they are on the East Bank. One of the challenging things that I think people understand is, you know, when Imagine East Bank, the vision plan that guides all of our work, was adopted by council, I'm not even sure Waymo was a company. And now you have autonomous vehicles zipping all over East Nashville, carrying people around. Certainly Choose How You Move, that initiative had not yet been passed or funded. So just in the short amount of time since the East Bank has been sort of the subject of focus, the way that people are getting around our city has changed a lot, and it's going to continue to change a lot in the next 10 years. And we're going to learn a lot about the way that people are using the East Bank as more of these developments come online. So we are in the very interesting headspace of trying to design not just East Bank Boulevard, but all of our sort of road network and our public space network for a lot of changes in mode share that are simply going to change a lot in the next 10 years. And that's not necessarily specific to Nashville. I think every city is going through some version of this where they're trying to figure out the most efficient way that they can accommodate certainly single passenger vehicles, which are not going anywhere, but also an increase in public transportation use, an increase in rideshare vehicles, an increase in cycling and scooters and the other ways that people are getting around. So that is, I understand, a bit of an unsatisfying answer to your question, but it is something that we are focused on in real time right now.
But Carrie, we're going to have jetpacks soon. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yes, I cannot wait to come back on and talk about our exciting air rights initiative.
Oh,
to
wonderful.
accommodate them.
We'll have you back for that. Well, let's circle back to the East Point Flats, like you mentioned before. Y'all just broke ground, and that's the much celebrated building that's 100% affordable housing.
That's right.
How will the city ensure that life for folks living there will be comfortable and sane as the area shuts down for the big game?
Well, it is going to be an adjustment, and I think it's worth keeping in mind that a couple of things. I mean, the East Point Flats is being built to an extraordinarily high degree of quality. There's nothing about that people should look at and think that there is some difference in the residents' experience because they are priced at various what we call AMI percentages. That stands for area median income. So that means that people at different income levels can still be able to afford to live in there. That does not mean that there's anything about the quality of the units themselves that is in any way diminished compared to a market rate unit. So that project will be delivered. There will be people living in there. There will be other residential projects coming online that are actually even going to be closer to the stadium. So there will be a lot of residents on the East Bank whose lives will be affected in one way or the other by the arrival of our guests from the NFL. But I think that people will find a lot to enjoy about that, quite frankly. I mean, there's also going to be a tremendous amount of new public space for them to enjoy. There's going to be a new greenway network that's going to help them move throughout along the river in a way that isn't currently possible. There'll be a lot of really cool, exciting things if you are a person or a family or a little kid who's living in the East Bank. I mean, it's going to be a really thrilling time to be a resident. And so we're excited for them. I'm excited for them. Not to say it's not going to be a little busy at times, but that's okay. I think that's one of the wonderful things about living in a big city is sometimes you have those experiences. And I think whatever happens at Nissan Stadium will be great for them to see, observe, take part in, enjoy everything that's happening there.
Continuing to talk about the residents, folks who live around that area are asking that same question. You know, you mentioned that construction is going to be a little painful. What steps are being taken to make sure that residents can get across the river quickly and easily in the midst of all this, since there are really just a couple of options?
Yeah,
and now
there will be, and people should expect some additional work to be done. TDOT has a plan to lower James Robinson Parkway before the Super Bowl, so people should be on the lookout for some more news about that later this year, about the exact timetable for that. We are working with the Titans, who have taken the responsibility for designing and constructing what's being called the Siegenthaler Bridge Connector, which is exactly what it says. It's a little loop that's going to come off the end of the Siegenthaler Bridge as you're coming down into the East Bank that will loop around and sort of put you right into Wasiota Park. So folks that are on bikes or scooters or wheelchairs or whatever will be able to get from the Greenway up onto the bridge as it starts to undergo some renovations. So, again, I don't want to suggest or tell people that there won't be some complication to their commute or that they won't experience some delays that might come along with a lot of construction projects happening all at once. The long-term goal for all of this is to have a smoother, safer, smarter, easier commute, not only across the Cumberland River, but really within East Nashville and around the East Bank. The amount of work that we have to do in the next 4 or 5 years to make that happen is significant. But in the long run, people will be very glad, I think, that this work is happening. I also want to stress again, a lot of the things we're talking about are not happening because of the Super Bowl. TDOT's projects, for instance, are not happening because of the Super Bowl announcement that was made in May. Those projects have been on the schedule for quite a long time. So do I expect this to be of some great solace to someone who may be experiencing a longer commute at some point in the future? I do not. But that same person, I think, will be glad when things are, when the dust is literally settled and they have a nice better street network that's going to carry them, into East Nashville, across the Cumberland, there will be a lot of value to that. And I hope people can keep that in mind.
Your COO, Anna Greider, told the Nashville Business Journal that pressure makes diamonds. What happens if, due to all the factors at play in Nashville and around the world, pressure makes coal instead?
Pressure is not a new thing for us. I mean, the pressure that we put on ourselves as the authority to do the amount of, what we call horizontal infrastructure, which is a lot of the stuff that I've been talking about, these below ground utilities, the street network, the public space. That is pressure that we have been putting on ourselves in a pretty serious way for quite a long time. I've been with the organization since last November. It came into existence the previous year, and ever since then, the pressure has been pretty forthright from both Metro and our partners at the state that we execute on these things. So the Super Bowl is a very clear deadline and an event that will obviously draw global attention. In no way do we mean to be cavalier about that or suggest that those aren't real pressures, additional pressures, a sense of urgency around making sure that things get done to a very high standard of quality, on time and within budget. But I don't want anyone to think that we woke up on the morning after the Super Bowl announcement and decided that we had to hurry up and develop the East Bank. That's obviously not the case. We are committed to doing the things that we know that we have to do. We have contingencies built in all of our timelines. We have contingencies built into our budgets. We work with incredible construction partners, incredible development partners. All of the people that are at work every day on the East Bank right now when you're driving around really know what they're doing. So I guess I would say we regard pressure from Metro taxpayers, state taxpayers, the NFL, anyone else who is focused on our success. We welcome it. We thrive on it. It's something that we find very galvanizing. Obviously the game is going to get played at Nissan Stadium on the East Bank. The Super Bowl is going to affect every part of Davidson County, I promise you. Certainly throughout the rest of downtown and the entertainment district, and I think all of Nashville will feel the Super Bowl's presence in some way. So we are happy to be one of many entities that are working hard to make sure our city is ready in time for that. But pressure in terms of it keeping us and our partners focused on what we need to get done, that's not a new thing.
Well, obviously, there's so much skepticism around it, but also equally excitement. Thank you for coming on here and talking this through with us. It's developing, so we'll have you back on for sure.
I hope so. Thanks, Marie.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Nashville neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell your friends, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our CityCast Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Toodles!